Hi guys, what's up? It's Clara, and right now it's late January, but we're gonna travel back in time and pretend that it's exactly January 1st, and I got this video out in an acceptable amount of time. This video is my everything I made in 2025. I feel like this is the first year where I've just kind of accepted the passage of time, and I'm like, yeah, okay, it's a new year. It's not that weird. But I do want to sit with the fact that a whole year has passed, and I feel like reflecting upon the different garments that I made and the way that I spent my time creatively is a good way to kind of wrangle with the fact that time exists. I don't know if that's too esoteric for a knitting podcast, but I don't know. I feel like knitting, it takes a while, right? We all know that, oh, my cat just jumped on the table that you're resting on, and that's why you shook. Come here, Tombo. Come join. There we go. You know he has to be in the podcasts. But yeah, I feel like a lot of the things we deal with in the present age are very immaterial, very cerebral, and knitting kind of forces you to step back and ground yourself in material things, and you see your progress as you're making items, and you kind of make peace with the fact that quality takes time and everything that's worth it takes time, which I really love. And I think I found a lot of peace in my practice, my knitting practice in general. And beyond that more philosophical side of knitting, I did end up with a lovely stack of knits. I'm gonna go through these one by one and do a little costume change so you can see what they all look like on. This was also my first year of podcasting. I think I started almost a year ago. So each of these items should have a podcast episode associated with them. So I do a lot of gift knitting and I do a lot of accessory knitting, but I'm kind of constraining this episode to just the garments I made for myself. And the reason I'm doing that is because, first of all, I don't have all of those items on me. I have none of those items on me, actually, because they're all gift knits. And then even the ones I made for myself, I don't know, I love my garments. I think at my core, I'm a garment knitter. I think that's what we all get most excited about. So yeah, I'm just gonna cap it at the garments I made for myself, which is a lot of sweaters and tops. That being said, though, what I'm wearing right now actually represents a gift item that I made for my mom. So my mom, Carrie, who we learned to knit together about a decade ago, which is kind of crazy to say, and we started a tradition last Christmas where we do a Christmas Eve cast on, and we both make the same pattern. Last year, so 2024, we casted on the Maggie cardigan, and she made one for me and I made one for her. I think it's just super basic, cute O-neck cardigan. It fits really well. This one kind of fits me like a little vintage short sleeve sweater. She actually used yarn from our own sheep for this one, which is really special. The buttons are these super cute quilt ones. I really enjoyed making this one for my mom. I think I'm not a huge cardigan knitter because it does require you to do a lot of back and forthing rather than knitting in the round. And although I wish I was just a standard knitting lover, like no matter what it is, I love it, I'm not the biggest fan of having to purl in every other row. So it definitely was like kind of a relaxing, zoning out sort of knit because you are doing a lot of back and forth just in stockinette. But that being said, it's a great product. So I think this one was definitely a product knit. The process itself was special because my mom and I were doing it alongside each other. But yeah, this was a great start to the year. I just didn't want to forget it in this episode because it is how I spent like my January and some of my February of 2025 creating this garment. All right, I'm gonna step off screen to do a little costume change and we can talk about garment number 2. All right, if my hair starts looking a little crazy from like yanking on and off tops, don't worry about it, it's just a look. I'm gonna have a little sip of my iced coffee to keep my energy up because we're only on garment 2, we have a whole year to go. Okay, so this at the time was like my favorite thing I had ever knitted. I still love it so much. I think of this as like my mermaid sweater or my kelp forest sweater just because of the gorgeous winding cables and the hand-dyed Surrey alpaca which I used, which has this like really subtle variegation of a teal to a brown, which just reminds me of the ocean. If you don't know me in real life, I'm a marine biologist, so I draw a lot of inspiration from the natural world and kind of, excuse me, everything I do. But I'll stop waxing poetic and tell you some of the concrete details about this piece. It's just a classic saddle shoulder, O-neck or crew neck cable, all over cable pattern. It's meant to be quite oversized. I'll film some B-roll afterwards of me like wearing these. You can see my full body. But yeah, it is oversized. It's got very oversized sleeves. I made it a little long on myself, which I really love. I just used up all the yarn that I had. This was my first time knitting a saddle shoulder. And I think I had the same experience that almost everyone I've heard who did make a saddle shoulder for the first time. I feel like it's kind of a more recent design trend within knitwear. I think it's so funny that our trends are like, what if we make something in a different order instead of like micro trends and saying, what if we put bows on everything for approximately 2 weeks? So yeah, I like experiencing different knitting trends that help you get creative with what you're making in different ways. But yeah, my experience with making a saddle shoulder garment was it fits so well. I think as a human being, I have pretty broad shoulders and it kind of makes them look a little more slopey, which I like, a little less boxy. And it was really fun to knit because you don't have to make a gauge swatch. You just kind of knit your little rectangular shoulder, measure that, and it's just a great way to start. It's basically just like a long gauge swatch. But of course, the drawback that comes with saddle shoulders is just you have so many ends. You have a lot of ends, so that's something you have to contend with. I honestly don't hate weaving in ends. Obviously, it's not my favorite thing in the world. Like when I used to crochet and I made granny square things, that would drive me, you know, up the walls because that's gazillions of ends. But with knitting, it's like, okay, you know, I have maybe like 5 to 15 ends. When I'm done, gonna take an hour, weave them all in, block it. And it's kind of like your little closing ceremony of your project. So that being said, yeah, it was very worth it to do this construction. I want to continue exploring different ways to put together sweaters. I think this year I did make a lot of sweaters. It's my favorite thing to knit. And I kind of contended a little with what fits my body shape best. So like I know, unfortunately, I don't really like circular yokes. They just don't fit me very well, but I love saddle shoulders and I love drop shoulder designs. But okay, we're gonna get to the next piece. So this was the first summer garment I made of the year. This is the Anker summer shirt by petiteknit. So far we're at 2 petiteknit designs. I want to do like a little stats with which designers I used because I do like to include a variety. But yeah, this was my first summer garment of the year. I want to say in March, I went to my local knitting guilds or fiber arts guild yarn swap. If you haven't been to one of those before, search it up right now and sign up to go because that was like Christmas and your birthday rolled together in one. you just go in and you bring in yarn, so you're destashing at the same time, and then you just get this chance to swap with people and to pick up yarns you've never heard of before, vintage yarns, and the best part is, in my case, it was all free. I picked up this secondhand cotton. I'm gonna put up the exact name of it, but basically it's a recycled cotton to make this shirt. I really loved the process of making this top, and I got a lot of compliments on it. I really love the color, I love the fit. The only thing I'll say is that first, the pattern does not include any shaping. It is a circular yoke, and it does not have any German short rows, as I remember. So the top does sit pretty high. I thought that was gonna bother me. It doesn't bother me at all. I think it fits pretty well. I don't know if that's because it isn't like an itchy material or what, but yeah, I really did enjoying the fit. At the time, I thought this was a flop. Now I like it. And I think that's because right now when I'm wearing it, it's cold. And when I was wearing it in the summer, it was obviously really hot. I know, crazy. And this material is very, very thick. Like, I did not anticipate how heavy 100% cotton would be. It almost feels like chainmail. Like, it's a very, very thick fabric. I know we think of cotton as like the perfect summer fiber, but some of the pieces that I'll get to later, which are like cotton, linen, viscose blends, I ended up loving a lot more. So I think I actually need to pull this out. I'm glad that I'm going back and doing this video, because it's like, oh wait, I actually don't hate this piece. Like, I was thinking of even donating it. But yeah, I think it would be a great rest of the year piece, just like either over a long sleeve in the winter or like under jacket in the spring and summer. Like, I think this would look really cute with maybe a jean jacket, because it's not itchy, it's not overheating, but yeah, it does have that kind of weight and heft that you'd like on a slightly chillier or more temperate day. So yeah, that's what I have to say about this top. I think I would definitely make a long sleeve version of the anker one day. I think it's a really cute, simple design. I think it is popular for a reason. All right, this is now my third petite knit design. This year I watched a lot of other people's knitting podcasts, and they really inspired me to make my own channel, which right now you're watching. And one of them that I watched was, I'm totally blanking on her channel, but I will put it up, and she talked about making the Monday sweater and loving the Monday sweater and just remaking it as just this classic wardrobe staple. It's a raglan, it has an oversized fit, it is a crew neck, it incorporates short row shaping. What else is there to say? I used I want to say a fingering weight wool, which I'll pop up, and then I paired it with the Knit Picks Aloft mohair, which is my favorite mohair. I like it better than all the even higher end mohairs from like Isair and brands like that. And yeah, I made this early-ish in the year, and I've gotten a lot of wear from it. What I really like about this piece is, first of all, I made it a bit oversized. I sized up. I do want to remake this piece just as a staple to have in my wardrobe one day, and I would knit like my actual size instead of sizing up, because the pattern itself includes a lot of positive ease, but it is super cozy, it's super soft, and it's super casual. So I wore it on a lot of my outdoors adventures because it's a knit that I really appreciate and of course take care of, but I don't feel like I have to be too precious with it, and it doesn't present as something that is like a little bit more fancy, like maybe the sweater 29 that I just showed you guys. So yeah, I wore it in Alaska this summer. I wore it hiking in West Virginia, and I love I'm a pretty outdoorsy person, and I love wearing natural handmade, like natural fiber handmade pieces when I do so. because they work the best in keeping you warm and keeping you regulated and keeping you cozy. I also wore it in Maine. Yeah, I wore it on all of my significant outdoor adventures this year. One thing that I did end up doing is returning to sew in some elastic thread into the neckline, which is just double folded neckline. Who doesn't love a double folded neckline? But just because it was really gapping, like I'll put in a picture, like if I wore a t-shirt underneath, which I usually do with a sweater, it would show like this whole area of the t-shirt, and I just thought it looked a little sloppy. I think it's just because of the way that the sweater is constructed. Like there's no seaming here. You start with the neckline, do the fold, and then keep going into the raglan, so it kind of gets pulled down by the weight of this sweater. So yeah, I put in the elastic. I don't know why it took me so long to do that, because it took like 2 seconds to make that fix, and now I really love it, and I think the sweater is adorable. So yeah, I think this was a win, and I would like to remake this pattern one day. Alright, so now we're really getting into summer garments. I'm sorry that you can see my tank top underneath this. I'm just wearing that as like a base piece to switch in and out all of my knitted garments. But I feel like this is the pattern that had all of us in the chokehold this summer. It is, again, the sabai top, and I knitted it in what I believe is the recommended yarn, which is the Sadness Garn Line. And I made it in this gorgeous champagne color. This is one of those patterns which I was influenced, what can I say? And I just bought the yarn that made the most sense for it and cast it on. This really began my love for knitting summer garments, which I think in the past I have not followed. Well, I followed patterns that recommend using like a fingering weight sock yarn or a fingering weight merino, which I think were popular like a couple years ago. For instance, there's the like my favorite things knitwear one, where it's just a tank with a bunch of double folded edges, which I'll pop up a picture of the one I made or the pattern itself. But this year, I think I really realized that, yeah, if you make a flowy garment with a summery blend, so again, this one is cotton, it's linen, and it's, I believe, viscose or some other synthetic. It is just so breathable. It's nice and flowy. It looks really cute with like a little skirt or some overalls or some shorts, and it's practical. So I love making clothes, like wearing my knits in my daily life as often as possible. And it's getting to the point where I have a lot of winter garments, right? Like this week, I think I wore a hand knit to the office every single day. And that's just my personality now, you know, I gotta keep it going. So this coming year, I would like to make a few more summer pieces using either the Sadness Garn Line or the Drop Spell, which is kind of the more affordable dupe of that yarn. To talk about the pattern itself, I've heard some people say that like the neck cast on is kind of fiddly. I thought it was fine. I don't know. I did the version of the sabai with the ribbing. I think the version with just the rolled edges is really classy as well. I don't know. I felt like knitting ribbing. I think either way is cute. I like each version that I saw on everyone. And so you start with making these little increases for the side of the shoulder, and you knit just a little bit in the round before you separate for the front and back. You do the short rows, then you join in the round, you knit it, and then the rib version has this little ribbing down the side as well, which I think is a really lovely design detail. I had a little leftover yarn with this one, and I think I gave it to my friend, and she made a bandana out of it. I don't really have much to say about this pattern and this yarn other than I loved it. I did say that the sabai family of designs has a sweater as well. I was watching Two Pearls in a Pod's most recent episode, and I believe Sarah was making one out of cashmere, which just looked so yummy. And I have some like sport weight maroon yarn in my stash that I think would look really cute as a sabai sweater, so that might be one of my spring cast-ons for 2026. All right, we have another, actually two more here's a little sneak peek, two more summer pieces in store, so let me go change into the next one. All right, so this pattern is the petiteknit ivy top, which I think was kind of a partner pattern in my mind to the sabai top. Like I think a lot of people who made one pattern also tried out the other. I love the fit and the color of this piece. So after I made the sabai, I heard that drop spell was a more affordable alternative to the line yarn. So I ordered some of it. This was before tariffs, which was quite nice, in this beautiful raspberry color. And the way it is the same exact yarn, like obviously it's a different color, so it has a different like shine and feel to it because of the dye, but the actual construction and makeup of the yarn is the same, like to the percentage. So yeah, highly recommend drop spell. I have some more in stash to make this exact top again this summer in like a French blue. But I think this raspberry color is super bright, kind of reminds me of like strawberry shortcake. I also love pink, it's my favorite color in general, and I love knitting in it. The design of the top, the pattern itself was super intuitive and easy peasy to knit. It is a classic, I'm gonna say drop shoulder design, but I don't think you actually have to like knit the shoulders themselves before connecting in the front. It has like a little rolled neckline, which it just rolls like a little subtle amount. I think this yarn isn't very prone to like really rolling up on itself like wool does. The only modification I made to this is I used the same technique on the edges that I did in the sabai top. So you kind of like slip a stitch at the end because you're knitting in stockinette. I didn't want to have that raw edge, which I think would have been fine because you don't really see it, but I thought it was a professional looking detail in the sabai top that you have like, I don't know even what you call this, like a slip stitch edge. So I incorporated it in this design. Yeah, it's just all over stockinette. It doesn't have any of the ribbing details of the sabai top, but I loved wearing this with like a plaid skirt in the summer, just put a pop of color in an outfit. I wore it throughout the fall too, like with a pair of jeans. It looks cute. It's a simple top, what can I say? I'm a fan. I did make this one kind of cropped, which is fine, but I think in the future I would make it like an inch longer. That's my only qualm with this piece, which I think is very minor and just a matter of personal preference. All right, let's talk about the last summer top that I have, which is my favorite that I made this year. So this top is knitted with drop spell as well in this beautiful ivory shade. I see that I have like a little snag on it that I need to fix, so I apologize about that, but my summer tops have kind of been in hibernation for the last couple of years. We're actually not, sorry, the last couple of months. We're actually about to get like a foot of snow this weekend, so let's just say it is not the time of year to be wearing this beautiful, lightweight, flowy, lacy top. Again, this is the palme tee, or palme tee. I saw this pattern on Andolini Knits, who is another one of my favorite channels here on YouTube, and I was super inspired. It features, I want to say this is like a feather and fan design in a circular yoke. This is definitely a piece that you're going to want to be locked in when you start knitting, like alone on your couch with a printed out chart in front of you, because you're doing that feather and fan design at the same time that you're doing German short rows, which I think an intermediate knitter could do. I don't think you necessarily have to be advanced. You just have to have the mental bandwidth to sit there and to count and to double check. and to not be distracted. So this is definitely not one to start knitting when you're like at a cafe with the girlies. After you're done knitting the circular yoke, it is just all stockinette with a little bit of subtle ribbing on all of the extremities of the piece, all of the edges. I love this piece. I did not knit it perfectly. When I went and I counted each section of this feather and fan design, I did not reach the same count in each section. I don't know what I did wrong, but I was kind of like getting into the rhythm and zoning out when I was knitting this, and then I definitely stumbled somewhere along the way, but it looked pretty and it still looks pretty, and I would be hard pressed to show you where the mistakes are. There was just that slight mathematical difference, so I kind of fudged it. In the last couple of rows before I got into stockinette, it fits perfectly. It looks super cute. I get a lot of compliments on it. I love this piece, and I think I would actually knit this again in a wool or a wool blend for kind of like a fall spring piece, and I would do long sleeves. I think it would be really cute if there was like a bell sleeve at the end and you did the feather and fan motif for like at the end of the sleeve. I don't know, I'm getting inspired. I have so many things I want to knit. But yeah, this was definitely a big win for me summer knitting wise. I'm really proud of this piece. I think, again, I love the fabric that Drop Spell or Line knits up, and that's all I have to say. It was a win and I'm happy. All right, you might notice that the pile is starting to get less extreme, but this is my Frankenstein cardigan. I just wanted to make the cutest fish design possible. I love Boyland Knitworks. Like, she's probably my favorite designer. I love her fish motifs. However, the halibut motif series of designs, I wanted to make a cardigan, but I wanted it to be a crew neck design. What I ended up doing is taking the bones of the Maggie cardigan and applying the pattern of the halibut cardigan. This was actually a project that I made specifically because I was going on a trip to Alaska for both work and pleasure. I made a whole vlog about it. It's my favorite vlog I want to say I've ever made. That was such an amazing trip to my favorite place in the world. And Homer, Alaska is the halibut fishing capital of the world. I actually did get to go halibut fishing, and I caught the biggest halibut on my boat, you know, not to brag. So this was just something that encapsulated that trip for me and has amazing memories. All of the details about like the math and the trials and the tribulations and the process of making this piece are in that vlog, so I'm not going to include them here for the sake of time and brevity. But I will comment on how this piece has worn because it's been a few months now. I used Toft DK to make this piece, which is a super warm and soft British wool, and then I used just like a classic patent, I want to say worsted yarn for the contrast fish. This is the little deal you make with the devil when you knit. The softer the yarn, the nicer it's going to feel, but the more it's going to pill. So this is a sweater that it just looks a little worse for wear. There's like little pills all over it. And I usually knit with more rustic yarn, so I was not anticipating this, and I need to get a depiller and just take a little more care of this sweater. Yes, I do, Tompo. So it looks nice, and it reflects all the work and love I put into this piece. The Maggie cardigan long sleeve though, I love it. It fits well, super oversized, super cozy. I love wearing it to work. I think it's really funny to wear a fish cardigan to work as a marine biologist. I also wore it to National Aquarium last week, which I thought was really funny as well. Just like let fish take over my whole personality. And yeah, Moral of the story is be careful with soft yarn. But I did get this one at the yarn swap for free, so you know, use what you have. What can I say? I still have like one little mini ball of it right here, and I think I'm going to destash it by making some slippers for my mom and just putting this in as like a stripe detail. Anyways, on to the next, and if you're thinking of stopping watching now, don't, because the next one is my favorite piece I've ever made. So this is my favorite piece I've ever made. This is the Hanna sweater by Paula Strict. It is this oversized cable and like, this isn't a rib, I don't know, cable and drop stitch crew neck. It is a classic European drop shoulder design. It's meant to be oversized. It has very straight sleeves. I don't believe you incorporate any decreases. And it just looks so beautiful. I made the smallest size. This is the only drawback of this pattern. It only has 4 sizes to choose from. It's one of those ones that kind of rationalizes, oh, you know, this is meant to be super duper oversized, so we only need a couple sizes and it'll just fit oversized on everyone, which obviously is not the case and is not ideal. But it did turn out amazing. I love the look of the fabric. I love the yarn I chose. This is actually really special yarn to me because my parents got the base yarn I used from Scotland. I'll put up the name. I don't have like notes for every sweater right now, so I'm just gonna pop that information up on the screen as I go. But it is I think they called it a decay, but it was really more of a fingering, I would say. And it is 100% Scottish wool in like a very light beige color. I was in my like millennial beige era for this, even though I am a Gen Z loving color person. And I paired it with my favorite mohair, which is Knit Picks Aloft in the color Oat. I believe both colors, both the base and the mohair, were called like Oat and Odie. So yeah, this is my Oat sweater. It fits so well. I loved making it. It was by no means a quick knit, but it was very worth it. I actually want to make this again in a light pink, which is my favorite color, like kind of a bubblegum rose pink. One day I want to try out knitting for olive, so I think I'll wait until I can see that in store and then I'll choose those colors to remake this. I really loved making this in a fingering and a mohair instead of a decay and a mohair because I think it is still super warm, but it's drapey. It's not like a stiff piece, which I think you can get sometimes with knitwear. I will say, just a little aside on using mohair in Surrey, I think that's been a huge trend in knitting in the last couple years, and I don't know if I can predict this for the general knitting community, but I think for me at least, dare I say mohair is out. Like, I love my pieces with mohair, but I don't think they're the most practical because they're so warm. They do have a little bit more itch factor depending on which one you use. They leave fluff everywhere. And of course they have a ton of positives too that I could wax on about. But I just think if you have a couple mohair pieces, that might be enough. Also, it doubles the cost of knitting a garment. And I think this year I want to just not hold as many things with mohair. That's just an idea I'm playing with. Let me know if you're thinking the same. This isn't really like big news, you know, whether or not to use mohair, but I don't know, it's something I've been pondering when it comes to acquiring and using yarn for my projects. So that's all on the Hanna sweater. I'll put up some pictures of me wearing it. My lovely coworker took some pictures for me, and then my boyfriend took some pictures of me because it is the sweater I packed to wear in Europe, which I also made a vlog of my adventures there. I'll put the link up as well. But yeah, this one wins a new little like badge. This one is my favorite sweater of the year and of ever. So now we're on to our last piece. Let me go change. my god, I just saw my hair in the mirror. And it is so frizzy from pulling so many things over my head. And I feel dehydrated. I've been talking so much. But if you're at this point in the video, thank you for sticking around. This was my last piece of the year. Technically, I did finish it like January 1st or 2nd, just because I was out of town for the Christmas to New Year period, and I didn't have time to like bind it off and block. But I'm counting it as a 2025 knit. This is a super, super exciting piece. This was actually a test knit for Flaminia Chini, aka the Knitting Flam, which I will put her tag up. She is an amazing person to test knit, and this pattern actually came out today, so check it out. It is the Sandro V-neck. I originally had this yarn as the Salty Days sweater by Kutobekika, and then it was just sitting half finished forever, and I decided to frog it and turn it into this piece because I just thought it fit this pattern so perfectly. It is the most vibrant, gorgeous yarn. It is almost a beacon of light when I wear it. Like, I'll put up some pictures so you can see how truly stunningly bright it looks in the sun. This is like my main character sweater. It's hard not to light up the room in this sweater. And yeah, again, I love pink. I love knitting in pink. And this yarn is super special. It's the Miss Babs Killington DK. It's 80%, I want to say, Polworth wool and 20% silk. So it kind of has the feel of being superwash without actually having the plastic in it, like superwash wool does. But I love the way this piece fits. I love the height of the neckline. I think Flaminia as a designer is very exacting and very conscious about making her patterns kind of like roll over and hug the human body. It includes short row shaping on the arms. That was my first time doing non-back short row shaping, and I think they fit super duper well. She was just an angel to test for, like so understanding, so responsive, and the pattern itself also comes in an O-neck version or a crew neck version, so if that's more your jam, also go check that out. I don't have to be advertising for her right now. She didn't ask us to do that or anything, but these were just my genuine experiences testing for and seeing kind of the, I don't know, the process behind making one of her designs and all of the thoughtfulness that goes into it. I love the way this pattern or just this piece fits me in particular. I think it is very like, and it's a perfect amount of oversized where it's not huge, it's not baggy, it still manages to look kind of almost preppy and put together. Again, it's just the star of any outfit I wear, like putting it on really makes an outfit. But it's still casual enough with that slight amount of oversize that I just feel comfy in it all day, and I would even wear it at home to lounge around the house. It's kind of an anything piece. It's whatever you want to make it. Hi, this is Editing Clara. I realized that the video cut me off when I was saying bye, but I just wanted to say that I love having this space in this community online to reflect on my pieces and kind of give them the respect and memorialization that they deserve, instead of just saying, okay, I made this, let's move on, let's make the new hot piece, and post it and keep going. Instead, kind of taking time to recognize the time and life and love that goes into each piece, not to be cheesy. But if you are watching up to this point, thank you so much. Feel free to say hi down below. I'd love to meet you all and see where in the world you're from and what you're working on. And enjoy your year of knitting. Happy 2026. Bye-bye.